morning everybody, Cam back here. Come out for a ride, desperately trying to find a road that isn't full of cars. I'm hoping I'll get a little bit of fun on this one before I catch up to something again. I've picked out a few of my favourite roads today, and every one of them's been a traffic jam. And some quite odd driving, which yeah, some odd 3-point turns from people who are stuck in traffic jams. I don't like them after what happened to me and Mrs. C, which wasn't quite a 3-point turn, but it wasn't far off. And just watching the way some people behave when they're stuck in traffic, some of the daft manoeuvres that they do, kind of reminded me of a programme I was watching not too long ago, and caused quite a bit of discussion in our house. There's a programme where they announced to some fanfare that it was the first time ever that cameras had been allowed inside a car while somebody was doing the driving test. And it followed quite a few people who were coming to do the driving test, and how they got on, and a few passed, a few failed, a few, to me, should have failed and didn't. There's some people who passed it, you thought, after seeing them drive before the test, on the day of the test, you think, well, I hope they don't pass, but they did. And it got us talking, me and Mrs. C, because, well, I've talked about this before. When Mrs. C was doing a driving test, it was quite a surprise to see how much easier it had got, how much less you had to do. Because, you know, the roads have got busier and potentially more dangerous, probably because there's people who've done this simpler driving test all over them. But we said at the time it was odd that 30 years ago when I did my test, there were manoeuvres that you had to do. The test was longer as well, I suppose, you had more time to do them in, but there are manoeuvres you had to do, and there were quite a few of them, things like a 3-point turn, or turn in the road using forwards and reverse gears, the old 3-point like that, to turn 180 degrees. Reversing off a main road into a side road around the corner, that was one. Emergency stop, of course, that's a very important one. And quite a few others, parallel parking. I can't remember them all, and it would be boring anyway. I'm just making a list, aren't I? And it's not going to be one of those top 10 lists that you get on YouTube that people seem to be drawn towards. No, it's going to be one of my normal videos that people don't care about. But when I did my test, you had to do all of those, and we were surprised when Mrs. C did hers that all of those manoeuvres were in there as well. Hill start, there's another one. No rolling backwards allowed whilst pointing uphill. Now the hill start wasn't on her test. That was one that you didn't have to do anymore. And weirdly nowadays anyway, a lot of cars have hill start control, so you couldn't possibly fail that one. But yeah, I'm digressing again. So she only had to do 2 or 3 on the actual test, and she had an extra one that could be picked, which was, if you imagine you're at a supermarket car park with all of the cars kind of parking next to each other, it was reversing into one of those spots. Now, when we're watching this programme, it turns out that you only have to do 1 manoeuvre now. So everybody with a brain says, well, that's obviously it's the emergency stop then, and all the other ones have gone by the wayside. But weirdly enough, the emergency stop, which is the one of all of them that is the most likely to be the one that saves lives. Give myself some space so I can actually enjoy some of these bends. Yeah, the one that will actually save lives potentially, you don't necessarily have to do. In fact, on not one of the tests that they showed you did somebody have to do an emergency stop. Most of the tests that they showed you, they had to do the new manoeuvre. And the new manoeuvre, I'm going to upset this guy now by not going nearly as fast as you would expect somebody on a bike to go, so he didn't turn across the front of me. Yeah, the new manoeuvre, which was the one that they did mostly, was the parking spot at a car park, but forwards. So driving forwards into a car parking spot is now seen as the complicated manoeuvre that you have to do during your test. I'm baffled, absolutely baffled. I don't understand how that can be even considered to be a manoeuvre. I mean, we're not far off the manoeuvre being if you can get out of the car without tripping up, then you pass, you know? Just it seems a very, very odd thing. So simplistic. If you're, let's be fair, if you're going to take your test and you're doing your hour that morning before the test, and you're still not really sure that you're good at parking forwards in a marked bay that's quite big, then really, you know, just cancel the test there and then, because that's pointless, isn't it? I mean, if you can't do that, you can't drive. And I don't want to offend anybody, but I do often. But I'm not saying this to offend anybody. But you know, if you are in that position, take a few more lessons or go and do a bit of practice, because if you can't do that, you're going to get into situations where, you know, on the road in real life, once them L plates are off, where you're going to get hurt or you're going to hurt somebody else. Anyway, funnily enough, there was a news story on a couple of days ago that I saw that was quite amusing. The one thing that I didn't expect to see, but because of coronavirus, and this isn't in Britain all of the tests have been cancelled, and they've now got a backlog of nearly 500,000 tests, I believe. So people just have to walk for a bit longer. But or they could get a 125 and do the CBT, you know, that's always a possibility. Much more fun than driving anyway, even on a 125. But yeah, in one particular state in America, they've taken a different route to... see what I mean about people doing manoeuvres that are a bit dodgy? Yeah, they've taken a different route to the problem of people not being able to do the test. Thank you. What they've decided to do is just give people a licence. So in this particular state, they were talking to a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds who had just been given a licence, assuming they've done the... I'm not quite sure how their test works, but I believe you do a few months or a few weeks or something of driving around on a learner permit or something before you actually take your test. Somebody can probably explain that one to me in the comments, somebody from the US of A. But they've decided that if you've done that bit of driving around, you can have your test. That's a place I wouldn't want to go to and drive at the minute. I have to say, it was good to see some of the teenagers who were being interviewed, who were just coming up for that, saying that they were actually looking to book their test in another state so that they could do the test rather than just being given the license. There are still some people out there that don't see a free license as being a good thing. I suppose we are only one step away from the license turning up at the bottom of a cornflakes packet, aren't we? Anyway, let me know what you think in them there comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.